Hey everyone, Autumn here. Let's get started. All right, go ahead and introduce yourself for me.
Hey y'all, I'm Austin Crumley. I am from California, particularly Los Angeles, and my art form is ballet, classical ballet, contemporary, all that good stuff. But I primarily do ballet education. So that's me.
Yes. Okay, so I want to be able to hear your story of how did you start with ballet? What got you into dance? Give me that origin story.
Yeah, for sure. I'll give you kind of like the short little like crash course version, but we can always obviously go off of that and have fun with it. So I started ballet at 15 years old, and it was really kind of just an opportunity for me to do cross training because I was doing baseball at the same time. And my mom got me into it because we kind of knew the person, and I was like, I don't know, it's ballet. But then I fell in love with it, and it was something that was really incredible. I did musical theater and theater my whole life in addition to baseball. So it just was kind of like the natural fit for me to be able to transition into that kind of art form. And it was my junior year that I really decided, man, this is great. I want to do this for a living, and I would love to. I felt rather called to be a part of the industry, and so I went with it. And then from there, I went to the University of Oklahoma, Boomer Sooner, and got my degree, my bachelor's of fine arts in ballet pedagogy, and did this whole like thing where I went off and became a professional, and I danced with the Sacramento Ballet. And from there, my teaching career just kind of like took off, and decided in the long run that would get more passion and more energy from teaching individuals and teaching the next generation than I would performing. And, I kind of figured that out when I was at OU because I changed my degree actually from ballet performance to ballet pedagogy. So, yeah, literally, like it was just like sophomore year, just switched it up and I was like, this makes more sense. So it was kind of a good thing for me to do all that. And now I teach at California School of the Arts. This will be my Oh Lord, I've been here since 2018. Let's math that for a second. It's a while.
7 years?
So what,
Is that
7 years?
correct?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah. So I've been here for that long and have taken up many different duties and roles and things of the sort. And now I'm going into my fourth year next year of teaching biology during the day and then also teaching ballet in the afternoons during the conservatory hours.
Wow.
So we're kind of an arts high school. So it's do normal academics during the day, and then we do your art in the afternoon to the evening. And then you have like your performances and rehearsals and all that stuff. Everything's kind of in-house.
A perfect
So
day.
yeah, so I think that answered the question.
Yeah.
But I mean, there's obviously some more like now I teach ballet for the 21st century. And so there's a bunch of education in the education world, rather, there's a bunch of research and evidence-based strategies and avenues that you can go down in order to help your students understand concepts better. And so that's actually what I do with my company, Ballet Reeducation. So it's like an exciting little like that was a really awesome crash course. I should actually save that for later, but
Yeah.
that was kind of a crash course for what I do, where my background is, and all that fun stuff.
Keep that synopsis in your back pocket. We're going to backtrack just a little
Try.
bit.
I'll certainly try.
Okay, so within beginning ballet and deciding like, oh, I really like this, what made you love it? What about it really pulled you in?
I think it was just being there in the studio and being in a safe environment because I knew the teacher, but being in the studio and just witnessing actually how hard it is because I had seen it before. I watched the Nutcracker performances. I actually like did the performance as like a little helper kind of like thing because I needed boys.
Yeah.
So I saw how hard it was, but I never actually did ballet. And then that first class, it was like, oh my God, this is so hard. But it was also it just made sense for me in my body, in my mind. And then I realized its benefits and like how much it could support me as a person who thought he was doing baseball. And then, surprise, surprise. So there was like that first instance of like my foot cramping in tendu of like, oh, that's hard. What is this? And exiting the class feeling like this is phenomenal. I want to do this more. And so like that was kind of like I don't know, in a nutshell, those emotions that kind of went through my mind in I don't know, the first ballet class that I ever took, and it was just hooked ever since.
Yeah. For me, it's always like how much I feel my hamstrings working. I'm like, wow,
Yeah,
they
for real.
engage so intensely. How interesting. But yeah,
Yeah.
I think that makes total sense. What was the most challenging part about making that a part of your life and doing it for the first time?
Um, I think if I can remember back, there's the most challenging aspect of it was just realizing that this is kind of like a whole new ball game, and I was just kind of getting thrown into something that I didn't quite understand. And luckily, I had an amazing teacher to the point where she knew me, I knew her, and she was very understanding. But the challenge really was as I was navigating it, and then once I decided that this is something I wanted to do, the real challenge was actually being humble enough to accept those beginnings and then build up and build more, and then using the like dance science knowledge that I had, which was like exercise science, but to kind of like get me to where I needed to be. So the challenge was like, hey, you're 15 years old. You're normally supposed to start this at 3. Have fun. Good luck. And so like that was really the biggest thing to kind of get over and hurdle through.
Yeah, I think dance as a whole is definitely an art form where everything is so much easier if you just start when you come out of the womb.
Yeah, for real. Tell me about it.
If you just have it in your bones, it's so much easier. But I think that's the beautiful part about making dance more accessible to all people at all times, is allowing people to really insert it into their muscle memory whenever they can, because we don't
Yeah.
all have access to that. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay. So with that being said, what inspired you? What was the flip of switch in your mind that made you think, "Oh, this needs to be changed within ballet
Mhm.
re-education?"
So there's a lot, but when I think the benefit of starting late was I wasn't invested in the tradition of it all, and I wasn't invested in this is the way that it is, and this is how it's been, this is how it should be. I really just kind of like got thrown into this ideology and like the methodology and theory and trying to get it as soon as possible that I didn't have that affiliation associated with, that love or the passion or like this is something we have to keep. And so when I started, and I obviously was very pro-human and very pro like I feel like everybody deserves a chance to be seen and heard and felt and whatnot.
Yes, sir.
So when I got into the university and it was very like not tradition heavy, but there was obviously this kind of like notation towards, hey, this is how we are doing things. This is ballet technique. This is the ballet industry, and we're preparing you for it. I realized like, cool, like this is the ballet industry, and there are aspects to it that technically speaking, in every single industry, are going to tear somebody down if you don't have the skills and the tools and whatever you need in order to be equipped for it. So I realized then and there that was like, I need to stand my ground for like what my values are and what my beliefs are. And that is that every human deserves respect and every human deserves the appropriate education or attention that's needed in order to then go and be successful in whatever it is that they choose to do. So it was not necessarily the university, it wasn't necessarily like the people inside, but it was the like tradition, it was the culture. And so it was at that point that I had to kind of decide, okay, what is it that I'm going to keep pushing and what is it that I'm going to try to transform, try to rearrange and then make anew so that people can then take this in to be better. And that only made it, being a professional, only made it that kind of avenue or that the way at which I saw education and the need for change, it enhanced that because I realized that by being a professional, not getting paid enough, not having the ability to recover enough, and like the demands of being in an art form is supreme, no matter what art form you're in. If you're in film, if you're an actor, if you're in visual arts or anything of the sort, there is an extreme kind of play that you have to navigate through, and that's a part of being a part of the industry, you
Yeah.
know. But I realized it was in that moment that being a professional that was like, there's a lot that can be transformed, and there's a lot that should be transformed so that we're having a better future for the next generation, so that they don't have to endure the same fallbacks, the same systemic problems that we had experienced. So I decided, to leave the industry at that point and to start going full teaching full time because I knew I couldn't do much by being a dancer. I had to do something by being a person in front of the room and being a leader in that way. And so there's just I decided to, all that hard work from being a 15-year-old and starting late and all that good stuff, like it felt like for nothing. But then I had to like rearrange my thoughts and like the way I was thinking about it. And was like, actually, it's not about the performance. It's not about me. It's actually about everybody else. It's about community and it's about making this better. And so that was kind of like that little change that happened for me. And, it's evolved ever since, and I've experimented in every single ballet class I taught, trying things here, trying things there, revamping a curriculum, and like doing things and learning from those experiences. And that's really actually what got to where I'm at today, where I'm able to actually provide a whole like curriculum program for teachers who are looking for that same thing that I once looked for. So I think that's the most beautiful thing about being human is that like you learn from not only your failures, your mistakes, your faults, your the feelings of when we are like the most down in the dumps, you can actually take good from that and you can make good with it if you choose that pathway. And so I'm hoping that I chose that pathway good and
Yeah.
and can bring it on to the next generation.
Good grief. Okay, so much I want to ask you, so much that I had to like write down a point so I didn't forget it.
I get it. I'm
Um,
the same way.
yeah, well, okay, so obviously, if you hadn't had the experiences you had, if you hadn't observed the culture in the way that you had and started later on and weren't as attached to the tradition, you wouldn't have seen the systemic issues within the culture itself that you wanted to change. So I think that's
Yeah.
amazing. And you're so right. Like it's so interesting to me as an arts advocate and as an artist in many different capacities where the arts are always the thing that is looked down on or not encouraged in like a higher education format or as a career path. But at the same time, those who go into artistic endeavors, the recovery time is never there because the public
Yeah.
wants so much of it.
Yeah.
So I'm confused as to how there is any kind of disconnect with the world of, oh, the arts are important, you know?
Yeah.
I find that
Yeah. I
so
think it's
interesting.
that's such a, vast I don't know. It's so vast to try and tackle that.
Yeah.
It's I don't know if you want to spend time on this, but the general ideas that I have about those things is like that's where we have to do a little culture kind of shift too, is
Hmm.
like helping individuals understand that literally every day when they walk out of the house, they're experiencing art. The creation itself, like the world around us itself, is art. And if people don't see that, then that's something that can be taught or we can rearrange it or anything of that sort. But it's being aware that, hey, you're surrounded by art all around you. And if we were to say, you know what, actually, let's defund it, you would be very bored and very sad with your life?
Yeah. Well, and at the same time, like you wouldn't have cups that are designed this way.
Yeah,
You wouldn't
like,
have,
literally, like this guy.
right? Like everything that we see around us, our homes, the things that decorate our homes, furniture of all kinds, cars. Come on.
Yeah,
Okay, we're gonna circle back to this.
yeah, for sure.
We're gonna circle back to this. But I have a question about like whenever you were beginning to teach, how did you come up with the curriculum? What informed that for you? And what is the process like of developing new curriculum and revamping
Yeah.
it, etc.?
So, I started off like anybody would start off. You teach based on what you were taught.
Yeah.
And especially in ballet, that is so, so typical. Is like, well, my teacher taught it this way. That must be right because I trust them. And
Yeah.
so I'm going to pass it on. And oftentimes that is one of the source of problems is just constant like, well, that's what was done. And so we should just do the same thing. That's not progress. That's not we sh Instead what you need to think is and say and do is what was taught, is that benefiting today's dancer? Is that benefiting today's artist, human? And then from there, you can then say, okay, what is, and then what's not. And for what's not, it's not that you go, ah, abolished, I hate it, abandoned. That's not how it works. In actuality, it's okay, well, what can we work from? What is benefiting? What benefited them in the olden days? Because to be honest with you,
Mhm.
like traditional ballet instruction works. It does create a good product. You see it all over the place. But at the end of the day, you have to ask yourself, but at what cost? Where is the sacrifice? And who is being sacrificed? What is being sacrificed because you're making such a product? Everywhere you go, no matter what art form that you're in, there is going to be something or someone that is or has been sacrificed in some level or capacity because that's just the world. That's just how the way the world operates is nobody's perfect and nothing is perfect. But by God, we can try and get close to it. We can try and make a better world.
Yeah.
So, it's I think that there's an element of that, but as far as curriculum development and, you know, changing and revamping and trying to make things better, I think it goes back to really that questioning. It's really good to question, and it's really good to take a look at something upon reflection at the end of the year and or month, year, week, whatever it may be, and then ask yourself, did that meet the objective? Did that meet whatever I sought out to meet? And if it didn't, what were the variables? What came into play that didn't allow that to happen? And then you can then readjust. You can move forward. You can figure out a new game plan. And that's literally like as easy as it gets as far as making something anew again or finding a new way of doing things. It's an opportunity for you to be humble enough to reflect and to reassess and to know that it's not necessarily a testament to your character or your expertise or anything of that sort. That's just the nature of the job.
Yeah.
It's never going to be perfect, even from traditional ballet instruction is not perfect, and traditional ballet, as far as culture goes, isn't perfect. Some people would argue it is, but it really is not if you look at it all. And nothing is. Trying to prove
Exactly.
that point.
Yeah. Yeah, just to put a pin in that one. Within all of the work that you do, have you seen a difference in the classrooms that you've had the privilege of teaching over the past several years? And what is your dream for the future of this kind of movement?
Yeah. Oh yeah. I've seen such huge differences. The difference between I don't even know how to start this one, but basically like the interesting thing is I deal with students who don't just stay like here at the school. They go elsewhere. They go to outside studios. They go to different places. And the constant feedback that I get from these students is, Mr. Crumley, I am glad I'm here. Or like, Mr. Crumley, the way that you do the classes, I feel safe. I feel seen. I feel like I can actually like unload and like do my stuff that I'm meant to do. I'm not fearful. I'm not, I don't think that judgment is ever going to come from you, and I feel free to be able to do my art. And they go to outside places or they go to different, I don't know, different schools or studios, and they have this feeling of competition or like they need to be seen, and so they have to go up and do this, or they're doing things that they never thought they would do, but it's important because I need to get that attention. And then it becomes this very futile kind of, I don't know, hostile environment for them. But
Yeah.
in my class, that's the constant feedback that I get. It's almost every single year. It's something I constantly um, receive from students is that, Proms, you gave me the space I needed to grow, and you gave me what I needed to feel like I was seen, and feel heard and respected. You saw me as a human, and that type of feedback is what I love. And if I don't get that type of feedback, maybe they're just very quiet. But but I'm also like, cool, like that's feedback in itself, and it can help me to make myself better. So that's something. There's a lot that I think I could like, talk upon as
Yeah.
far as like what I do differently, but um the the whole gist of the way that I teach ballet and the way that it's different from the traditional instruction is that it really is human centered, and it goes back to the students that you are and surrounding yourself with, and how you're responding to their journey.
Mhm.
Um, a really good one, if people kind of want to see an example of what I'm talking about, because words, they're good, but like seeing actual work is great.
Helpful.
I have a reel on my profile, my Instagram profile, that's like I think it's like right there at the very top. I pinned it, and it goes through like exactly what I'm talking about. And I have a little like micro sessions with people at the bar, and I'm like, "How you doing today? There are these things that you're focused on from last class. How's your focus happening today?" And like I'm going through these tiny little moments with I think like 5 students, and it took like 2 minutes. It was so good. And the constant feedback, excuse me, the
Fun.
feedback and like comments that I got, that's what I meant to say,
Yeah.
is like, my God, I wish I had this when I was training. And some teachers or people that were commenting were like, man, this is the type of environment that can really actually produce something really good without like diminishing the human value. And like, go look at that reel because it's like I just posted my class. I didn't be like, look at me, it's just I just put it out there and like this is my class, this is how it can be, guys. Don't settle for less. You can still have a great product, you can still be an amazing technician, an amazing artist without diminishing and like going into your that kind of like fear-based instruction or settling for the person who is going to hit you with a stick or anything of that sort. You
Yeah.
don't need that.
The
You
hitting
got
with
to value your humanity.
the ruler is too much. Like,
So
yeah,
tell me about it.
yeah.
Yeah, I
Okay,
don't know if I answered the question, however.
you did.
Okay,
You,
great.
you totally did. And it makes my heart so happy to hear about work that you are doing and work like this that is truly bringing respect and humanity back into some art forms that are just kind of drilled out more
Yeah.
often than not. So I think that's really amazing. And I hope that I'm sure you are, but just in case you don't hear it enough, I hope that you are so deeply proud of the work that you've been able to do in really
Yeah.
reinventing this for so many people who love it so dearly.
Yeah. I mean, I'm definitely proud of who I am today and for doing what I needed to do to get to this point. And it wasn't an easy journey. And I went through a lot of trials and a lot of tribulations and just moments where I'm like, is this even worth it? Did I do the right thing? Am I making the right decision? But at the end of the day, having moments where I'm able to talk to people like you or talk to individuals and see people like this year, I'm seeing my students who I've taught for 6 years. I taught them since they were seventh graders, and they're graduating. And it's such a beautiful thing to see because I can see the products of my labor and the type of work that I do. I can see it in them, and I see that they're so ready for the world, and they're so better off than the individuals who are, I don't mean to demean or demonize, but rather though the individuals who are in a different environment where they're oppressed and they're fear-based and they're just constantly trying to survive. I want to build individuals who feel like they're thriving, and so like I am very proud of the experience that I went through and owning those scars and owning those growth and development that I went through there, and just very blessed to have that opportunity. So yeah, it's cool.
That's amazing. I have one last question for you.
Let's go.
Um, so we kind of already talked about a little bit about why you think the arts are important to the world, but I want to know how you think that people who want to support and advocate for the arts can do so and why they should.
Yeah, that's a deep question.
I know.
And it's funny because it's so like systemically challenging to the systems that are in place. And like, because the things that I think about immediately is like being a member or like paying for a package or, like things like that. Like you always go to shows and they're like in your program, you're like, be a member, be a part of the circle or whatever it is.
Yeah.
And like, that's awesome. We need funding and support. If you have the means, go do
Totally.
that because it works. But some things that I'm like trying to like think of, and I probably have not thought about this really before because it's just not my like lane.
Yeah, absolutely.
But man, I think what will, if you have the opportunity, go and watch a class. If you have the opportunity, look it up on YouTube. There's classes on YouTube and see the difficulty of it all. See the grueling endeavors that people go through in order to strive after something that's not lasting. This career that we have as dancers particularly is very, very short today. Future, I hope it gets better, but
Yeah.
um it is an incredibly short career and people always ask like why do you do that? And I'm like I just love it. I don't know. I just if there's a passion, there's something in it. There's like I'm committed, and if you can see that and you can um, see that level of commitment and that level of just passion and drive, and it clicks, like that's what's ultimately going to change the person and the arts advocate to being so much more. But I think it kind of goes back to like our previous point is you have to realize how much you're surrounded by art and how much you're surrounded by creation itself, of
Yeah.
people, of the universe, of Earth, of like just what you surround yourself with, and um, become more accepting and more thankful of those types of things.
Mhm.
Even your phone is art.
Yeah.
And so like there's these things that you can surround yourself with and like you just realize for a second, take that moment of like a breath and just see like, ah, here we are. I'm I'm literally like I am art itself. And I think that can probably help. But as far as like anything else goes, I feel like I'm kind of dancing around the question.
Yeah.
But there's some things. There obviously are things that you can strategically and constructively do to help with arts and to get more funding and have people that believe in it and yeah, support it from the top and all trickling down to the bottom and pushing arts to be like part of our culture. I think that's why Europe is so like lovely and like people always go to Europe because of the arts, and they want to go see these things and whatnot. But it's because it's built into their culture. It's like
Mhm.
to make a parallel, I guess,
Yeah.
comparison is you when you go to the whole culture of like cuisine and food in Europe is completely opposite of America. America is like, I'm gonna get it fast and I'm gonna get it really like because I need it and then I'm gonna move on.
Yeah.
Uh-huh. And like, but then like Europe, it's like eating takes hours. Eating is a whole endeavor where it's actually community based. It's a part of their culture to the point where it's like, no, we'll get to that. This is important and like savoring and enjoying the flavors and like the interactions of the savory and the spicy and the salty and the sweet and like that's what we need to get ourselves into is not necessarily the food. I mean, yes, amen, but also the whole idea behind what is it that you're doing and where is the depth of that task of that activity of whatever that you're diving yourself into and then own it, find the parameters and then like move to them, expand so that you can then like I promise you that is what you really want, not that quick fix but really actually the thing that takes time or the expansion of living. I went on a whole like lovely tangent there, but you
No,
could
but
tell
it's
I'm
so
passionate
true.
about that stuff.
As you should be. And I admire and respect that. Thank you so much for your time today. Don't go
Oh
yet.
yeah,
I'm going to stop the recording. But I really
cool.
appreciate your time and thank you for sharing your story and
Oh
everything that
yeah.
you're doing. And I'll be sure to link your page and all the beautiful things that you're doing.